There you go.
Okay, so he turns the TV on.
Yep.
All right. It's now 6 PM and March 8th meeting of the CDA. Please come to order. Sean, would you take roll call, please?
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Karen Gale.
Here.
Don Niemer.
Here.
Alderman Haas.
Here.
Jerry Motter.
Here.
Jim Lozinski.
Here.
And Alderman Weigel is not present.
Okay,
We do have a quorum.
we have a quorum, thank you. First item on the agenda, can we have approval of the minutes of the February 15th meeting?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any additions or corrections? If not, everybody please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes stand approved. Item 2, resolution to approve amendment number 2 to the staging and grading temporary easement agreement between the Community Development Authority of the City of West Dallas and the Mandel Group Incorporated for Phase 2 of the market development south of National Sona. Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, members of the authority, we continue to negotiate with Mandel for the adjacent lots on the site. If you might recall, late last year, we approved the Sona Lofts development, which is under construction. Precast has recently been laid on the underground parking, and they're starting to go vertical in terms of the apartment building. But we continue to discuss what we call Makers Row 1 and Makers Row 2. This is an older kind of layout with the two buildings, but you get the sense of the two parcels of land. They're looking to do both of these simultaneously, or maybe a little bit a month or two apart, but to start the process. We are in negotiations on the development agreement. We have that on the agenda for closed session to talk a little bit further on the status. But what this is when we did the Nona project, or Sona, we said we wanted the developer to stay on the clock and keep moving forward. And we had a March 1st deadline date of buying this parcel, but we're not there yet. So he's asked for April 1st to kind of facilitate the ongoing negotiations. He has given us development agreements, or not development agreements, the pro forma LOIs. We have the draft LOIs with tenants, and we continue to get backup materials that we need to do complete underwriting. And we have started work with SB Freeman on the pro forma, so we can isolate what the issues are with that, and we'll go into a little bit more of that in closed session. So tonight, we're asking that you approve the extension of time to April 1st.
I move approval.
Is there a second?
Second.
Been moved for approval and second. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution passes. Item number 3, resolution to approve a letter of intent between the Community Development Authority and Balm Revisions LLC for the property located at 6771 West National Avenue. The potential portions of 67th Street and West Mitchell Street, tax key number 45305640002, and portions of tax key number 45402510001. Patrick?
Mr. Chairman, our goal is always to have the longest title possible, I think. I apologize for that. We'll have to look at how we can make those a little briefer. I'm going to turn this over to Sean, but you might recall we've been working on 6771 for some time. The CD owns the property. It's a 40,000 square foot industrial building that we have an historical, I believe the part 1 and part 2 have been somewhat approved. Part 1, yes. Part 2, maybe in theory.
Submitted. But
It's been submitted, not approved yet, for historical tax credits, which is a big equity part of the project. We had an LOI before with before COVID. And right when COVID occurred, everything stopped. They said we have to focus on our current projects. We can't take on something like this because, so we re-engaged them in terms of developer. And I'm going to turn it over to Sean, and he'll highlight where things are at in terms of this discussion.
So, yeah, we had talked about this last month. We've come back with a BOM revision on this property, and they've since proposed this letter of intent. It's to last 60 days. It creates a kind of an exclusive negotiating period where, you don't talk to other developers, and we'll work through hopefully through a development agreement with BOM revision. The main things they're working on right now and doing their due diligence are They had gone through the building pre-COVID to tighten up the construction costs and understand how big of a project it was. And they just want to revisit that to make sure that they have that number, pinned down. And so they're working with CG Schmidt. In fact, we're going out, opening the building up for CG Schmidt tomorrow to go out and take a look at the building. They've already been reviewing the documents, the estimates and things like that along the way. So that's the main thing they're working on now. And then the other part of it is working on finding an anchor tenant for the building. So they have some good candidates and have created some good traction in that regard. As we work with them, we're going to see their pro forma and things like that, and we'll be sharing that with you. The big challenge on this is the timing. It takes a long time to do these historic tax credit, new market tax credit projects to get from start to finish. So locking in a tenant, for a period that 2 years before something's going to open, the doors are going to open on something can be tricky. So there's going to have to be, in order to get the project on the road, there might have to be some sort of guarantees in regards to some of the tenancy in order for them to be able to go to a bank and get financing. So we'll talk about that, as we get the numbers in from the developer. But really, a letter of intent just gives them 60 days to really spend more time on the property and know that, it's their sort of shot at it. We will be back next month with definitely more details, and we can also talk a bit about it in closed session.
What's your privilege for the resolution, for the letter?
Do you want to vote on it now, or you want to wait till after closed session?
Maybe we should wait till after.
Okay.
All right, we'll hold that for closed session. Item number 4, discussion on proposal of Urban Pioneer condo development for 81st and National Avenue. Patrick.
Mr. Chairman, tonight, you're going to outline, and we have the developer here as well, the project on 81st and National. Brian Kleisman represents the TOD group. You might recall he worked on the 6 Points condo development. He's familiar here with the CDA on a couple projects, but we just highlight some of the images here tonight, and he wants to talk with the CDA in terms of what our reception is to this particular type of project. They have an initial layout right now of 23 condos, 12 micro condos, and we'll show you some of the images of the project. Overall, it's around a $17 million development. You can see the larger units are in the 285 to 320 range. Micro units are around the 175, and he'll highlight what a micro unit is and what the unit features are in the larger units. And it's around a $12 million projected assessed value. Overall, the building has a nice appeal, good curb appeal in the renderings. We're looking for some more follow-up information on that, but the group here has represented a quality project. They are looking at the location of the former Pyramex Bank building on 81st and National, and there's an empty lot that used to be Happy Hobby that burnt down. It was Happy Hobby.
Hobby Lobby store.
Yeah. And they had a detrimental fire on a New Year's Eve at the hobby store there. So they're looking at putting those parcels together to do this project. Here's some of the images of the layout of the units and images that they've provided to us in terms of design. It's very modern, and one of the unique things is it has a sustainability feature with solar on the roof. I know that image looks kind of unique in itself, but their goal is to put solar. Each of the units will have, I think, some sort of battery system that they could draw. I don't know how it all worked, but it's a sustainable feature it's something different than most of our projects that we have in our city. Here's more of a little bit of the street layout and the landscape plan around the building. Again, it fits right into the corner of 81st, adjacent to the, what's the senior community on the 70s?
Heritage.
Heritage.
My mom and dad.
Yes, Heritage, yes. The name was, for some reason, slipping in my mind. I was thinking Pioneer Community, but it's the Pioneer neighborhood. That's where you get the urban pioneer name from for the project. Here's some more. With the elevations up there, I'll turn it over to Brian Kleisman here tonight to present his group
You're
and
doing a very good job.
and the images here. Brian?
Well, thank you, Patrick and Sean. Nice to see you. We've been working on this project for quite a while. It's been a little over 2 years in due diligence and land assembly. Dealing with the landowners has been very difficult. I don't know if you know all the characters at play here, but we have been able to achieve now control of the Piramax Bank site, and we have control of the Happy Hobby site, and we're still working with Mel Adams on the old gas station site. Some of the issues that we confronted early on is that there were suspected environmentals across the board, and we had to figure out whether any of those environmentals leached into the other properties. So that was the first step we took in due diligence. Once we realized that it was a number that we think we could build into our total project budget, we went then and started to meet with the landowners and negotiated and finally, cut some deals that allowed us to get to this point so we can get on the Plan Commission. Sometime, we'd like to be on the March 25th Plan Commission meeting, so follow-up plans will be coming to keep us on a track like that. But the key thing for us was to look at whether or not we could build a high quality product with enough interest to it that would attract buyers to pay the price points that we're looking at selling these units for, and not do apartments. And actually a slam dunk deal for us would have been to come in and propose a 50, 60 unit apartment building and build it like everybody else and have a project that makes the developers some money. But we thought this was an opportunity site. There's some things about that area that we like. Number one is the growing interest in moving into that area with Ogden's Element 84 deal and Mandel's, One West deal. That's proving to us that with continued job creation in West Allis, that it gives us and the city an opportunity to diversify some of that housing market and create some home ownership, some home occupied projects that I think will just completely benefit the city. But to do that, to sell those, we have to have some sizzle. And that sizzle came to us through all of our market studies telling us that buyers today are looking for something that has that sustainable component to it. And so we explored the idea of providing solar panels on the roof. And if you think about it, we have around 40 units, 43 total. It would require 165 panels. It's literally 4 panels per unit. And then we would buy Generac power supply cells and outfit each of the units with its own power supply so that we could reduce the energy costs through electric. And after a multitude of studies, we figured it out and the cost to do it. And it put a burden on the project, no doubt about it. And that's, over time, we want to be able to show you what those numbers look like and give the CDA an opportunity to work with us to figure out if it's worth the investment, not only on our part, but on the city's part to contribute through tax increment financing to make the project work. So, in summary, the two big components that make these condo ready is that, number one, that solar thing, and that's going to be close to $1.8 million in cost to us just to provide that. But we've built these out with some of the most plush and interesting layouts on the interior. So if you take a typical apartment project that's going to have white walls and lower cost appliances and flooring and all the other pieces to an interior, if you look at some of our drawings, and I don't know, Patrick, if you could show us some of the interiors here, you can see that these are large open spaces. And on the ground floor, we have townhouses, because we know that there's an interesting market here in West Allis that love townhouses. So 6 of our townhouse units have attached garages on the back, which helps our parking formulas. And 2 of our smaller micro townhouses would have to use the underground parking. So we have, right there is just a unique product, because there's 21-foot ceilings in the townhouses. They have lofts, and they're heading up over 2,000 square feet. So if you take time after today's meeting and just kind of look at the way we're laying these out and designing, you'll see that it's going to be a very, very high-quality product, competing with condos in downtown Milwaukee, and I think some of the best product that you can find in our region. When you start looking at the details that we provide, I think you'll be very pleased with it. On the sustainable side, also, we can put our stormwater conventionally into, the stormwater system, MMSD's, that goes right down into Lake Michigan. But we've taken a few extra steps. We'll have little things like rain gardens and permeable pavers, all those, they're conventional now. But we provide all of that, extensive landscaping. And on the inside of our warehouse units, we're calling them open flex space warehouse, you'll see sliding barn doors instead of just the typical cheap hollow core doors. You'll see larger bathrooms with larger showers that are laid out, not just with the plastic showers that apartments would just slip in that are 6 feet wide. Ours are probably 50% larger than a typical bathroom. We've got handicap accessible units. We found a market and a demand for that. So 2 of our townhouses that have single car or 1.5 car garages are laid out and designed specifically to attract people who have handicap issues, ADA issues, and we're working with different buyers that would help, take those over with us and help manage those. Our underground parking structure was one of the limiting factors of the density in the building. We could only get 38 parking stalls after we put all of our storage units in there for water and air conditioning, and the solar panels themselves are going to take up a lot of space. So we do have the ability to provide 1 stall per unit as we sell our units. And, stalls are about $40,000 a piece to build those in this day, so you can see how the cost to build these things continue to mount. We were able to get at least 10 stalls for guest parking on the outside. And the fact that we're next to the railroad and we're next to the newly built Greenfield Avenue, the fact that there's a lot of lower income properties around there with the storage yards and the auto shop and all that, we have a vision that this could be the centerpiece of revitalizing the entire urban or the entire Pioneer neighborhood. And so in order to move that needle forward, we provided, at least from our perspective, what a tax increment district could look like that would surround our development. I don't know, Patrick.
We don't have that in here.
That's a little
we didn't-
premature
We
at
have
this
that
time.
in closed session, the math and all that, so.
So, in summary, this is an introduction to you. I would like to field any questions you guys might have at this time. The goal is to get through this meeting, start talking through what financing options we have. I can tell you that we have 2 companies looking at giving us cost estimates to build this thing, and they're honing in as our plans start getting to them. We've got all the engineers on board that we need to satisfy any further issues that we have to talk about in terms of structural, civil, and environmental. And we're ready to go. Now, admittedly, we're a little nervous with the supply chain issues that we're dealing with, because our construction numbers are inching up every time. It hasn't gotten better in the last 3 to 6 months. But we are anticipating that sometime in summer and early fall, those numbers are going to continue to ratchet themselves back down. Hopefully some of our inflationary problems are going to get balanced out, and we can get a shovel in the ground, God willing and city willing, sometime in early fall of this year. We're thinking September, October. We know it's about a 10-month construction period. The fact that these are condominium units and not apartments means that we can pay off the construction loans within 2 years. Our absorption rate, we think, will be about a 2-year span. We expect to sell quite a few pre-sales through the construction process. And our marketing team is actually already starting to gear up and get ready to put these on the market so we can get some early pre-sales going. And I think I'll leave it at that for now and open it up for any additional questions you might have.
Any questions?
I was just, can you outline what a micro unit is? Then I-
Okay, yeah, I didn't speak to that.
Right.
But a micro unit is just a small unit. It's like a studio is some of the typical language you hear in small units. Studios are usually 800 to, let's say, 900,000 square feet. These micro units are like 600 square feet, 500 square feet. And they're designed to attract a marketplace where someone wants to own. Typically, it would be a single person, but we outfit them with Murphy beds. And that's another one of the interesting things about our condo project is where we provide ample bedrooms and bedroom space for 1 and 2 bedroom units. We also use the flex space concept where we build in Murphy beds into all of our units so that you can provide a 3rd bed or a guest bed. And that kind of meets the way housing and condos are being built these days, with Airbnbs being prevalent and, you know, the ability to buy a unit and use it for a, you know, an income property. All those things are what are attracting people to West Allis and to this location. And it's because of the nature of the building and the nature of the product that we're trying to provide. And with your help, I think we can do that.
Any questions? Any Aldermans out there have any questions? If not, okay. Well, thank you very much for the presentation.
Appreciate
We're looking
it.
forward to see what develops in the future on it.
Okay, well, our next step will be at the Plan Commission, and we'll continue to work with the internal staff and Patrick on the financial side of the deal. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much for listening.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right.
I think it's exciting to see a condo proposal. We haven't had
Right.
a concept like that in
Right.
a little while, so it's a, like Brian mentioned, a diversified approach to housing. I think there is a market maybe out there for the tiny home kind of concept. If you call it micro unit, I call it tiny home. There are people interested in that. They want to reduce their, what they call a carbon footprint in life, so there could be a nice approach there with that project.
Well, nobody else has done this.
Yeah.
So it would be somewhat, every developer that probably has presented their products to you have said they're unique and they're catalytic. I think this one crosses that, you know, threshold of actually being something that will capture the attention of from the people from Milwaukee out to Oak Creek, out to Wauwatosa and beyond, and bring that marketplace here. You know, we want to attract those people that have the ability to own a home.
Thank you for coming in.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Appreciate taking the time. Have a nice day.
Okay, we'll go to item number 5, discussion in regards to status of financing of Markers Row.
That'll be in closed session, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, we'll hold it, then we'll go to item 6, consideration relative to report on redevelopment initiatives. Patrick, you have the floor.
First one, Mr. Chairman, is Sean's project here.
We're working with the owner of the property at 7140 West Greenfield Avenue, former J.C. Penney store that was then, you know, most recently a wedding center and then purchased by an antique dealer. That gentleman, Walter Holtz, owns the building and would like to redevelop it into an event space. If you're familiar with if anybody's ever been in it or was in it, you know, long ago or whatever, when it was at J.C. Penney, you know, it's broken up into like 4 different small sort of half levels, and it still is that way, and that presents a challenge when you're trying to convert it to event space for access to the floors and meeting codes and things like that. So, you know, to use it to its max ability to help the downtown, which a large event space would do, an elevator is going to be required, sprinkler system, you know, on every floor, things like that. Certainly you could do something lesser without that and just use the 2nd and 3rd floors for storage or things like that. But in order to maximize the space, you know, it's going to be a significant project from a cost perspective. So we're working with WEDC, with the state, and applied for a grant. We've received approval on the pre-application and are continuing to work with the owner on this and are excited about what it could be. And so you see that the owner has sort of proactively removed the windows and had a window installer out to measure the openings so that they can get an accurate feel for that. And so that's why you see the windows removed now. Plans haven't been presented to the Plan Commission or Council yet for it. But the owner is working with an architect, and plans are going to be presented likely in April to the Plan Commission and May to the Council. So exciting project in the downtown, one that could be a catalyst to help. If you think about when you go to an event space, you might go to a wedding from out of town, you're going to stay at a hotel, you might check out the city that you might not have otherwise have gone to. So it's a nice use in our downtown.
Just as we started out with the CDA presentation, motor castings, the demolition has commenced. I know we've been monitoring that. And the last, I think, meeting we talked about, they were waiting for a letter from the health department to address a vermin issue. We've made it through that process, and demolition has started, which is a good sign. I know this is commonly asked project, 116th and Morgan.
That's where Wayne wants condos.
Well, we're working on that. So we submitted a site investigation report to the DNR. I believe it was last year it was filed. And the DNR has been reviewing that site investigation report and came back and asked for some vapor testing on the site. We've done that vapor testing, was done last week. In the area, which it was news to me, I thought it was in this corner, which is historically where we had some hits. The hits were in this area. So she called them, she thinks that they're false positives, as they were picking up some readings of elevated levels of methane. Now, it could be coming from our site. It could have been just a false reading. She hasn't had those before, but the DNR is asking, she has to come out and probably do more canister tests, and they're going to do that testing and get that addressed, and then the site investigation report will be approved by the DNR. When I say she, it's Ramble. Donna Volk is our environmental consultant. She's been really good in terms of reviewing the site and keeping us informed. Once that is addressed, and then we can look at future plans for the site if there is some future plan to move anything from the site, but or build condos. But if a residential type of use is planned there, we most likely might have to have some vapor mitigation system. I don't know about basements, but things like that will have to be addressed in the planning process. It's a little early yet on that determination, but those are just things, once they get all the calculations to determine what has to happen. The DNR could say, well, we don't want basements there.
Right.
That's just what the DNR will do, or a vapor mitigation system. So when I say that, there's either a barrier that goes down, like a thick membrane, a rubber membrane that they can put down, and they put PVC pipe underneath the building. And sometimes you might see this at some places where it curls up. It's not. It looks a lot like a laundry, like your dryer. Some of the more venting, but that's how it'll blow out through that. Like it sucks it out like radon, and then sends it out. Or they run it out through the roof line, so it's above everything. So,
Okay.
Everything's away from the residential type of unit. So, a little bit more fact finding on this, but we're getting closer. And I think as things might progress with other plans in the city, we'll have this all worked out so we can connect all the dots. So,
Jim, go ahead.
This is the yard that we have now, right?
Correct,
Not the
correct.
corner?
This is it's a little island of the city that's on 116th and Morgan. It's this current yard that we have out there where we put leaves
We
and
never made the trade to get the corner of that
no,
116th. Okay.
no, we do not own the corner. We don't own. This is owned by Milwaukee County owns this,
Yeah.
which is a landfill, and then Greenfield owns us. You can I believe it's right in this particular area, and then there's another corner that's owned by another entity, and I can't remember who owns that. This is very swampy, I believe, on that corner. So,
Mr. Clark.
Thank you. On the southern border there, what's the distance from that line going south to that development? How far away is that?
No, there is another sliver of land. I don't know offhand. I can get that for you.
I
You're
guess.
talking about from our lot line to
Yep.
the next project?
Yes,
All right, all right.
I know what you're referring to. There is a sliver of land in there. I thought it was a creek or something that runs through there. Some sort of creek
Google
or
it.
ditch.
Not sure.
Yeah.
And a different question, nothing can go forward until the city yards issue is solved, correct?
Correct.
And how many years away is that? Mr. Alderman?
It's
Mr.
not close
President.
to fruition, no. It's, there's a significant land acquisition issues for a new city yard, and that's what we're working on.
No. Mr. Nemec?
Patrick, do you know what our neighbors are doing? Milwaukee County and Greenfield?
We had a discussion with Greenfield and Milwaukee County about this whole land area with the Metro Milwaukee Sewage District about putting land here. There was a long period of tie-up in terms of the land to move dirt to the site. And that's something, once this is moved, that's when moving the dirt here could work, otherwise we're using the facility. And, it was a longer span of time. And so we kind of passed on that discussion. Greenfield was discussing maybe a dog park on their particular, some sort of meeting a municipal need that they have. Some sort of, we said maybe they should work with our green dog park, but I can follow up that. I have not heard on Milwaukee County, and I thought they were going to allow dirt to be put there. But there hasn't been much discussion since that call. The mayors were on that call.
Okay.
Everybody was on there, and then it's gone a little bit radio silent.
Thank you.
Good question, though.
Any other questions regarding to any of those items there for item 6?
And then we're ready for
There
closed
you go,
session.
Wayne.
Oh, you Googled it, huh?
I Googled it.
Yeah. I was trying to measure distance on Google Maps also.
I wasn't gonna be able to do that, but it
Yeah.
gives you a perspective of. So it might be bigger than you think.
All right.
Thank you.
Oh, just on a side note, we know of the developer that built those in Greenfield. That has come up in a discussion recently, the type of unit where it's
there's the,
a townhome. So we're gonna try to reach out to them as well
Right away here.
in the meantime, just to see what
Yeah.
kind of discussion we can have.
Who knew I was so technologically
But they
savvy?
have built that similar style, I think in Menominee Falls, Greenfield, and there was another location.
They're all called the Glen.
They're all
of
called,
something.
yeah, they're all called the Glen. So,
Oh, that's
the-
why it's Glenview is the road.
Glenview, there's Glenview and Menominee Falls and
Glenway, it's Glenway.
Glenway, yeah.
Glenway.
So that's the name of their type of style of development. so.
All right, well, we'll have to see what develops on it. We'll now
Closed
move
session.
into closed session. For agendas items 2 to 5, the committee convened in closed session prudent to provisions of section 19.85/1/E, the state statutes for the purpose of delivering, investing public funds whenever competitive or bargaining reasons require a closed session. The committee can reconvene in open sessions after completion of the closed session to consider the balance of its agenda. Can I have a motion to go in closed session, please?
Second.
Been moved to go in closed session. Sean, would you take roll call, please?
Wayne Clark.
Yes.
Karen Gale.
Aye.
Don Niemer.
Yes.
Alderman Haas.
Aye.
Jerry Motter.
Yes,
And Jim Lozinski.
Yes.
we are now in closed session.
I'll second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Resolution approved.
That's all we have, Mr. Chairman.
Do we have a motion to adjourn? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you
All
all
right.
for coming. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Still nice and fast.